This is a South African business story like no other. The company started with one Afrikaans newspaper. It's now a media and internet giant with operations in more than 120 countries. It's been one of the most interesting stocks on the JSE of late because of its incredible roller coaster ride. The share price rocketed to a record high above 1,300 Rand in March, then it plunged, with the company losing more than 100 billion Rand in market capitalisation. It is bouncing back though. Now, the reason for those swings is Naspers' investment in China's biggest internet company, Tencent. Every time there's talk of government control, the share plunges, but when Tencent performs, it rockets. Well, after years at the helm, the famous Koos Bekker has stepped down. The new CEO of Naspers, Dijk, recently presented results for the company for the first time. He joins us from our studio in Cape Town right now. Good evening to you, Bob. It's great to have you with us. What is it like to be in Koos Bekker's shoes at the top of a company that does literally make the JSE rise or fall on certain days?
Yeah, Koos certainly leaves very big shoes to fill. But the company and its management team is in a great state, and I must say it's very exciting to be at the face of the life of this company at this moment.
Let's start with China, because investing in Naspers at the moment is a big bet on China, and there's huge potential. I understand about 600 million internet users, about half of those using Tencent services. But you do have to accept that government will be censoring, sometimes changing its mind, like we saw in March when you wanted to do, I think it was a virtual credit card. So does that give you some discomfort?
Yeah, when I think about China, I think what I think about is actually the opportunity it poses. And China is already the biggest internet market in the world, and it's already a multiple of any runner-up, and it's growing faster than any of the ones that are sizable. So I think that presents, in many ways, a huge opportunity rather than a concern.
When I believe you said today that you'd like to be a predominantly mobile company, so does it start with what's happening in China?
I think China is an amazing example on how innovation is now emerging from other markets than the traditional Silicon Valley startups. And with the size of the market and the quality of the entrepreneurs and the engineers, I think we'll see a lot more exciting things that are truly new emerge out of countries like China. Mm.
It's said that foreigners can be passive investors. Are you passive when it comes to Tencent, or are you able to be involved in strategy? And is there an exchange of knowledge that affects other parts of the world?
So Tencent is a listed company, and it's very much run by the Tencent leadership team. And we do have a board representation, and we have an influence through that. But Tencent is a standalone company, and if you look at the management team, it's one of the most impressive I've ever encountered in the internet anywhere. Mm.
There were reports, though, Bob, if you look at what happened with MTN in Iran, reports that the government was using MTN's infrastructure to spy on dissidents and locate them. Are you not worried there could be a potentially huge scandal down the line, even if you're not breaking China's country laws, that the rest of the world will be worried?
I think what is important is that the Tencent leadership team obviously complies with all the local laws that China has, and I think the way we operate is that we empower or we want to make sure that the management does what is the law in the country itself. Mm.
Bob, China is doing well. I understand you're also excited about Russia, but there are other companies that you're closing down. I understand companies in South America, e-commerce sites. Can you give us the big picture? Is this a lot of experimenting? And I do think that you have a very unique view of the world. So which parts of the world are exciting right now? And what are the next best things that you're looking at?
I think primarily we are very lucky to have a starting point in many growth markets in the world, in LATAM, in Africa, and in Asia, and in Eastern Europe. And many of those markets present huge opportunities. And the reality is we invest in in technologies that are sometimes new and not all of them work. And we have over time had a pretty good track record at getting quite a few of them right, but we do take risks, and the markets are sometimes also volatile. Mm.
Can you tell us about some of the risks? Because investors were somewhat concerned with the huge investments that you're making, but you have justified that, saying, you know, a lot of this is going into internet, into mobile. Are you sitting and waiting for another Tencent, perhaps, another explosion, or is there exciting new technology that you're looking at that you can tell us about?
Yes, I think our investors are in the end relatively happy with what we're doing. We are investing quite a bit, and a lot of it is in new technologies, but we're also investing in business models that have proven themselves pretty well in different markets over time. And we're bringing them to new markets and making lots of consumers well off. And if we do that well, I'm sure we will deliver good returns for shareholders over time.
Bob, you're not telling me what is out there that you're looking at. Anything exciting that you can reveal?
There is lots of exciting things going on. I could talk about it for days. I think one thing to call out is, if you look what is happening with the WeChat platform and how that's going from just being a social messaging tool to really driving massive online to offline traffic, where people are booking their taxis, booking their restaurants, booking hotel and hospital appointments through their messaging. I think there's a world of change still ahead of us. Mm.
What about your digital strategy in South Africa? Fin24 are doing very well, and I understand you're using internet to even disrupt the print businesses. So there are two strategies. You either go niche market, exclusive content sites, or you just go big and you aggregate content, and that seems the way that you're going. I'd like to talk about that strategy, but first, is there plans in the pipeline for a Chinese News 24? I understand there's nothing like that yet.
There's no such plans at the moment. But I think our efforts in online news in South Africa are quite exciting. And what we've seen also, that in very significant numbers, the traffic now is coming from mobile devices, and we believe that's very much the future for South Africa.
Because you're aggregating content, though, there's been claims of plagiarism. Do you still think that this go massive and aggregate content, that is the way to go?
I think we have different approaches in different parts. I think aggregation can be a successful business model. I think in the end you want to do what customers demand, and the most important thing is that people's preferences change, you're ahead of it, and at least give people what they really love. Mm.
Do you believe there's any future for print newspapers? You still have some in your fold, but it sounds like there's not a lot of investment going there, and you are letting your internet disrupt print and the magazines. It sounds like you may just be waiting for newspapers to die finally.
Well, if you look at our news teams and at our newspaper teams, they're actually the ones who drive a lot of the innovation. They are pushing their online publications, their mobile applications, and one of the reasons why I'm proud of them is they are not sitting back and waiting for changes to happen, but are getting ahead of it. And it's not always easy, but they're on the front foot and making it happen.
So still possibly a future. Finally, I'm not going to keep you much longer, Bob, but I want to talk about pay TV. And you do have MultiChoice, a virtual monopoly in South Africa. A lot of people would like to break that monopoly, but you've already extended across Africa. Just give me the plans and what's next for pay TV.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do in pay TV is give people a very broad and rich content experience. And I think there are certainly alternatives out there, but if I see the numbers and listen to our customer feedback, I think the product we give people is quite attractive. And we've, over time, taken that product to other parts of Africa, and most recently in a different type of TV, which is called DTT. And we believe that as the analog signal switches off in much of sub-Saharan Africa, we can make lots of households use our products.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. Usually based in the Netherlands, that was the CEO of Naspers in Cape Town for us, Bob van Dijk.